Patti Smith is here in 1975, known as the poetess of punk. She exploded onto the music scene with her debut album, Horses. She described her music then as three-chord rock merged with the power of word, but at the height of her career in 1979, she retreated to Detroit to raise a family with her husband, Fred Sonic Smith. They would remain there until 1994, when Fred died of a heart attack. In 1996, after some 16 years, she marked a triumphant return to music with the critically acclaimed album, Gone Again. Her latest release is called Peace and Noise, and I am pleased to have her for the first time on this broadcast. Welcome.
Nice
to have you, Patti.
Thank you.
I don't know where to start, except there's so much to talk about and so many different people. Were you more interested in poetry or music?
As a child, I was mostly interested in religions as a child. Missionary work. I loved Albert Schweitzer when I was a little girl. And then I got very attached to the Dalai Lama when I was about 11 years old, and the country of Tibet. And I was very interested in going into missionary work or being a writer like Joe March. When I read Little Women, I was entranced with the idea of being a writer. And I really thought about all of those things until my father took me to the Philadelphia Art Museum when I was about 12, and I saw art in person for the first time. And then I wanted to be a painter. Yeah. I actually never really wanted to be a musician and never really had any musical abilities or any apparent abilities. I did have a little brief flurry of wanting to be an opera singer, but I was such a skinny thing, and with no apparent talent, it was clear I was not going to be the next Maria Callas.
Well, what led to the signing with Clive Davis then?
Well, it was really, it was really partially the evolution of my work from, I always wrote, and I really felt that I didn't really have the calling to be a painter. I continued my writing and started to feel the desire to perform my writing, and started doing poetry readings. But I really wasn't interested in doing boring, flat readings. I really desired to communicate with people, to incite people, to make people laugh, and started performing my work. And as it just kept evolving. It evolved and started merging with sound, and also with the desire, being a great fan of rock and roll and having seen the whole history of rock and roll evolve in my lifetime, I started being very concerned in the early 70s about the state of rock and roll. I really thought that it was getting very corporate, very convoluted. It was losing its rawer power and becoming too marketable. And I was just trying really through my language, through my improvisations, and through the rhythm of my band to remind people of the rawer roots of rock and roll, and really just to incite other people to keep that torch going. I didn't really expect to make records or anything. It was really
What?
it just happened.
Yeah.
It wasn't my goal.
On Peace and Noise, you have either written or co-written all these songs, haven't you?
Well,
most of them?
Yes, I've the music. I've written a little of the music, but most of the music was written by Oliver Ray and other members of my band, Tony Shanahan, Lenny Kaye, and J.D. Doherty. It's a complete band album.
How about Gone Again?
I wrote, I believe, most of the work on Gone Again. It's also collaborated with Lenny Kaye and Oliver Ray. Some of the work were songs I did with my husband. But most of the pieces, the work on Gone Again, I really did in remembrance of Fred.
Robert Mapplethorpe.
Draws a smile, yeah. Is that a question?
No, it draws a smile because?
Well, Robert was my best friend, and I met Robert in 1967. We were both 20 years old, and we were both we were struggling idealistic, somewhat misfit young artists, and who found a way to support each other's work, and were friends, great friends, until his death in '89.
Lovers and
Well, in those days, I mean, we were pretty young. He was my boyfriend.
Yeah.
That's what we. They didn't call it lovers then. I mean, it sounds really dramatic, but well, he was my boyfriend. Yes.
Yeah. His death. You saw him 3 weeks before he died.
Yes, and I spoke to Robert hours before his death. I mean, we talked continuously through his dying process. I heard his last breaths, actually, over the telephone. He did very well through his death. I mean, he conducted himself very well, I thought, through the...
He met it with courage and...
Well, I knew Robert since he was a very young man, a very squeamish fella. You know, he didn't like medication or needles or, you know, anything like that. We were both very squeamish about those things, extremely squeamish. And the things that he had to go through and endure, he did very stoically and really did everything he possibly could to beat. He really felt that he could beat AIDS, and he did everything. He tried every medication, went to see priests, did yoga, he studied, he prayed, and more important, he worked right down to the line. I mean, on his deathbed, being partially paralyzed and partially blind, he was still drawing. And our last conversation that we had on the telephone hours before his death was about work. I asked him, what can I do for you? You know, is there anything you would like me to do? And, you know, he wished me well and everything, and the last thing he asked me to do was to write something for a book about flowers that was being done. And it was great because so typical of him, you know, he was literally dying. You know, he died some hours later, and he said to me, unfortunately, it's a book of color flowers, and I know you like my black and white flowers better, but will you write a piece for it? And I said, yes, I will, and it will be beautiful.
This is a portrait of you by him, yes? I mean, a photograph.
Yes.
Right.
Actually, that photograph, it's a unique, it's a color Polaroid, and it actually belonged to Andy Warhol. And I don't know how.
Wait, Mapplethorpe took the photograph,
yeah, Robert
and it
took
ended up in
think,
Andy's collection.
Yeah, it ended up with Andy.
Let me just show some of these. There's another one of you in New York City.
There's a whole bunch of pictures of me
picture.
with my hair in my eyes.
Yeah, what's that about?
Well, it was a windy day.
The notoriety, did he have I mean, how did he feel about the notoriety about him, Robert?
Around the time of his death?
Right.
Well, he had mixed feelings about it. Robert, from the time I met him, knew exactly what he wanted. He wanted to be a great artist. He felt he had a calling as an artist, which I believe he did. He believed it was a God-given calling. And he made no pretense of the fact that he wanted not only to be a great artist, but to be rich and famous. So it was very heartbreaking for him to see himself achieving wealth and fame in the face of death. It was heartbreaking. He was 42 years old.
Just as everything he'd always wanted was
everything
there.
that he wanted, everything he dreamed of. He did worry a bit that he might be achieving a certain amount of fame because people knew that he was dying of AIDS, but I assured him, and I'm sure he knew in his heart, his work certainly merited the acclaim that he got. The controversy that surrounded him is another issue, and he didn't live to see that.
Yeah, the exhibition and all the political
He
fighting.
wouldn't have, Robert really didn't like controversy. I mean, it might seem strange because
when you
of the
think
kind
about
of...
the nature of the work.
But Robert, when he did the work that he did that was controversial, he was He was quite young, and he did it idealistically. It was done at a time when a lot of people were pursuing to transform pornography into an art form, whether it was through studying Jean Genet, William Burroughs. It was not, you know, an aggressive or a titillating type of thing he was doing. He was really trying to transform, as I said, pornography into an art form. And he also was well aware that this work was not for everyone. And I really believe that Robert, had he lived through that, would have tried to find a way to make certain that his work was displayed in a way that was tasteful and in a way that was not an issue for young people. He didn't do his work for children to see, for young people to see a certain body of his work. It didn't bother him to have his work labeled. He would label his own work X-rated. He would label his own work that it wasn't appropriate for people under 18. He was a pretty compassionate person.
Two other men in your life. First, Sam Shepard. Tell me about that.
Well, I knew Sam Shepard for a time. He was a good friend. Actually, Sam and I, we did have a relationship, but we were more, the best of our relationship is that we were pretty good pals. And
what time was this in a time frame?
About 1971.
Right.
And he was very encouraging. He was very encouraging. He really thought I was still a fledgling writer. He was very encouraging. He really liked my writing. He encouraged me to perform and was one of the people that got me in motion to perform and to perform my poetry and even to start singing. And bought me my first guitar. And he was a good friend. And not at all, and he was a very generous friend in terms of wanting to see me do well. And we did write a play together. We wrote Cowboy Mouth together. And he was a fine man. He was a lot of fun, had tremendous energy, a lot of charisma.
Fred.
Fred. Well, Fred was a very fine man. He was a very complicated man, very gifted man. And it's really not easy for me to sit and talk about Fred. The best thing that I can say about Fred is that he was an extremely fine father. Of all his gifts, that was where he shone the most, and it's completely apparent in our children. He was gentle and compassionate, and really wanted the children and loved them, and he was a very good father.
79, you went to Detroit to live. About that?
Yes.
Why?
Well, that's where Fred lived. Fred was a Detroit fella. He was very loyal to Detroit. And Detroit had fallen on such hard times. And it was partially his hope to help revitalize the Detroit area. But it was a very, very complicated and difficult city to revitalize because there wasn't really any support. We did certain things to try to draw different camps together, but it's unfortunate because it's potentially a great city, but it's so spread out and so many people live in the suburbs or have gone to the Ann Arbor area that it's just going to need maybe another decade or two, and it's really going to depend, I believe, on young artists and musicians and the people coming back into the city and revitalizing it.
Fred died 1994, was it?
Yes.
Yeah. You had a brother that died as well?
Yes, a month after.
This book, this music is about death.
Well, I think of it more truthfully about life than death, because people, especially in the Western civilization, seem very bent on separating death from our life process. We are going to die. All of us are going to die, and hopefully we'll die well. We don't always have a choice in how we're going to die. So I really believe that Gone Again isn't so much about death, but how we, the living, cope with that, examine it, and go on in the face of it.
What's this about?
Peace and Noise. I think Peace and Noise. Peace and Noise is about everything. I think it's really the album that I, so wanted to do, or so dreamed of doing, when the time came and I did Gone Again instead. It's Peace and Noise really addresses many of the things, not only that I'm concerned with, but that I hope we as a people are concerned with. There's songs, the first song addresses hope and sort of some of the late 60s dream of the gathering of all of us as a people, and generating all of our energies into a positive thing. It's more of an evocation for the record. This
is Waiting Underground.
Waiting Underground. And, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And each song after addresses a certain issue. Whirl Away addresses urban violence and how in our society today, people are assessing their worth for material things instead of spiritual things, and I was really actually moved to write that, just seeing all the things that happen to young people. You see a story about a kid being killed in the subway because someone wanted his coat, or his designer sneakers, and the tag word from that, hello friend, came from the Cosby Boy, actually. I was very moved by
the death of Bill Cosby's son.
There was a little thing on where he got killed. Someone, I think, I saw in a magazine a little sign that said hello friend, and his father said that was what his son would say when he met somebody new. He would extend his hand and say hello friend. So that actually moved me to write the lyrics of that song.
What do you think of rock music today?
Well, I'm really not the one to ask.
Well, no, why not? I mean, you've been part of the scene for a long time.
I have no judgment on rock music, but I think the state of the music business is terrible.
Why?
Because I think that things have been, I think it's all come from, sometimes I blame it all on the 80s. The 80s, I feel, was a very material-oriented time. And we as a people have become convinced that we do material things, that we should be entertained almost constantly. And I think that the music that's accepted now, or the music that is being given back to us, is basically entertainment. I mean, I was told just today that the reason an artist such as myself can't get airplay is because I'm too issue-oriented. Peace and Noise talks about, it addresses Heaven's Gate, it addresses false preachers, it addresses AIDS, it addresses, this being spiritually bankrupt. It addresses a lot of different things. And I've been told people don't want to hear about that. They don't want to hear about these things. But what better time to speak about issues then at a time when people don't want to hear about them, because they're very important. We must address the environment. We must address all of these things. We have to continually address these things and bond as a community and do something about them. And I think that music is an excellent forum to talk about the things that we need to do.
Patti Smith's new CD is Peace and Noise. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's great to have you here. Patti Smith, Peace and Noise. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.
You hear that, Jason? The critter liked my serenade.
Well, we've been on the trail for a week now, Uncle Ben. My backside's just hankering to get off this hard mule.
You're going to be a gunfighter, you need a tough backside. And quit calling me uncle.
But I'm your nephew, Uncle Ben.
No, you ain't. You're my sister's son and nothing more and nothing less. Well, let's go, Grandpa. I smell water up ahead.
Why are we always rushing, Uncle... Sir?
Because we got a job to do. So let's quit the palaver and ride hard. Giddy up! Sorry, Grandpa. Let's go.
Charity, Sister Rosina. Apaches are killers, and we won't permit those children to stay here. Savages with the blood of Geronimo in them, and you're protecting them.
Oh, I'm not protecting them, the Lord is.
And this is a court order to put them in a military compound.
Let's see.
Oh, you're on my foot.
Oh, sorry.
That's another thing, Sister Delsina. Last week you punched Deputy Grogan in the face.
I'm sorry about that, too.
There's no excuse for misusing your position in the church.
He laid hands on the children.
One of them bit him.
I didn't see that.
Deputy Grogan isn't a liar.
I didn't say he was.
He had a paper of the court, Sister.
So did Pontius Pilate and the Roman soldiers when they went about assaulting the poor and homeless.
More to the point, who's going to pay Deputy Grogan's dentist bill for his broken teeth?
Not me. I was reaching to pray to God when your Deputy Grogan accidentally got his face in the way.
Is that the truth, Sister?
Well, if you don't believe me, ask the children. They saw it all.
The children only speak Apache.
Then ask them in Apache.
Don't be a fool. We don't speak Indian.
Oh, you have a lot to learn.
Sister, the army promised to protect us when they wiped out the Mescaleros. But if Geronimo comes looking for these orphans, nothing will stop him. We've had enough of Indians around here.
Dear Jesus, on behalf of my poor and suffering children, I pray to thee... Sorry. But how is it a nice man like you can't see being charitable to poor, innocent children? Never mind. I've hired a man to come here and help.
We've had enough of your ideas and excuses and lies.
It's not a lie. I have hired a man by the name of Ben Sunday.
Ben Sunday? You mean the gunfighter? You've hired a gunfighter?
He's due here tomorrow.
You're not a nun. You don't act like a nun. You collect those Indian brats, and you act more like a blacksmith or something.
Dear Lord, give me strength to fend.
Ben Sunday or not, we'll get those Apaches out of here.
Victoria, get them washed up to eat. Sarah, eat all good.
Sarah, the please.
Sister Dulcina, I'm glad you're here. There's a delegation of men coming from town, and I don't want you to say anything you'll regret.
Don't worry, Father. It's all right.
Well, the bishop has told me that I must protect you in your strength and weakness, so lean on me, sister.
Thank you, Father. But the men have already been here and left.
You faced them alone? Your pastor not there to protect you? You didn't lose your temper, sister.
Oh, no, Father. All I did was turn to prayer.
You turned to prayer?
Yes, Father. And something else. I did what you mentioned a while back and sent for a man to help.
A man to help?
Yes, Father.
Did I mention?
Yes, Father. I knew you'd want it that way.
I'd want what that way?
A man to help. And with the aid of prayer, we'll struggle through and do the Lord's will.
Sometimes we must pray for quiet strength, sister.
Oh, I did, Father. And the meek shall inherit the earth, Jesus said. I know that, and I use it as my guide.
And we'll all hope for the best.
You sure know how to make beans, Uncle Ben.
I told you, don't uncle me. Secret of good beans is to be hungry as hell. And next to beans, coffee is a man's best friend. Sorry, Stonewall, no offense.
You sure know how to make good coffee, sir.
It's a pleasure cooking for you, boy.
You ever been to Santa Fe before, sir?
Nope.
You think we'll have trouble when we get there?
Nope.
You gonna make a lot of money on this job?
Nope.
You want me to clean your gun?
Nope.
Am I asking too many questions?
Yep. Ah,
Are you all right?
rheumatism. Just hope you're gunned down dead before you're 50 and everything quits on you.
How do you get rheumatism?
It comes from using your back as a mattress and your belly for a blanket, which we're about to do once again. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Good night, Stonewall.
It's here. The stage is here.
We all better go meet that gunfighter.
I heard Sunday once turned Crockett, Texas into a cemetery.
I never counted on a professional gunfighter. Wonder what that gun is going to have him do.
Don't worry, gunfighters are for sale. Whatever she's paying him, we can pay more.
Watch your step now. Easy there. There you go.
Last guy's got to be him.
Looks like that nun was bluffing.
I don't know. I don't like it.
Sorry that Ben Sunday guy didn't show up. He would have lost his poke right there.
Maybe, but I wouldn't want to face him.
I would.
Did you see him? Sure did. It's a spitting image of him, only wrinkled up like an old newspaper.
Who you talking about?
Ben Sunday.
That's Ben Sunday?
Luke, you gotta admit that Ben Sunday sure was something. They say the doctor in Abilene took enough lead out of him to make a gallon. I'll be darned.
You know, there's some things I just don't understand, Jason. I've been riding all day and my feet are killing me. Get the animals something to drink.
You can count on me.
Howdy, Sheriff. Name's Ben Sunday.
Well, I heard you were coming, but I sure didn't believe it. You know, you're even older than I expected.
I'm even older than I expected.
Sunday, I don't mean to pry, but you coming out here to retire?
Nope, I'm here on business. My regular line of work, you might say.
Now, I don't mean to hurt your feelings, Mr. Sunday, but I don't think a man your age should still be a gunfighter.
Yeah, some people say that. You won't be needing this no more.
Matt McCart?
He met up with me when I was younger, about a month ago. He figured wrong, too. No, I was hired by telegraph to do a job, and I'm here to do it.
I just don't want nobody coming in here to cause trouble.
Don't worry, I won't break your law. I come to see a Father Jerome. You know where I can find him?
Yeah, he's out at the mission on the far side of town.
Good day to you, Sheriff.
Good day, Sunday.
Did you take care of the animals?
Yep.
Stonewall, too?
Sure did. We all had a nice, cool drink of water.
I could use a drink myself.
Oh, here you go. Fresh out of the well.
Oh, not that. You can lead a horse to water, but a man needs a real drink.
What do you have, Grandpa?
Name's Ben Sunday. Not Grandpa. Whiskey.
Hell, he's just an old man.
Looks like he's been around a while.
And his string just ran out. Oh, I'm sorry, old timer. I spilled your drink. Well, here, let me pour you another. An old man shouldn't drink too much. Suppose you need it to keep your heart going. Well, go ahead. Let's see if you can drink it down in one gulp, just like the big boys.
When he wakes up, he won't be so cranky.
Can I help you?
Are you Father Jerome?
I am.
Well, I got your telegram, Padre, and here I am.
My telegram?
Ben Sunday, Pecos, Texas. Need gunfighter, dangerous job, top pay, no limits. Signed Father Jerome, Esperanza Mission, Santa Fe.
I can explain that. You see, the purpose of that telegraph was to bring you here.
Hope you ain't going to hit me with that, sister.
I don't understand. I sent this.
Are you Ben Sunday?
I feared I am. What's this top pay, no limits?
God forgive us.